Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen, Alyx King, and Tom Wells here. Today is Friday, February the 22nd, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, 1 p.m. in London. Sydney, Australia is around 12 midnight. But wherever you are in the world, thank you for tuning in for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And I'm happy that we are on the air once again on our, it seems to be a Friday thing. We just have these little issues with Facebook. Facebook just doesn't want to cooperate, but we finally got it to cooperate. So thank you, Facebook. We appreciate it. We appreciate that you actually let us to continue doing the live streaming today. Right? You gotta celebrate these things. That's the way I'm looking at it. So
exactly.
Right, Alyx? I mean, so how are you doing? I mean, we've talked, it hasn't been like a week. It's been like 2 days, but it feels like it's been quite some time. How's it going at your end?
Everything's good. Everything's good.
Yeah? Oh, good. Okay. How about you, Tom? How are things out in Boulder?
Things are good. Supposed to get a little snow today, which is first time in a little while, and that's really nice. Other than that, yeah, it's been pretty cold.
Cold?
Not super cold. Well, not compared to most places in the east, but, in the 20s. It's in the 20s a lot.
Yeah, that's cold
enough. Cold enough, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as long as your nose hairs freeze to some degree, you know it's cold, and that qualifies. So, well, good. All right. Well, this is once again Q&A, and that means that anyone tuned in to the live stream can feel free to add questions for us to discuss. We'll be happy to bring them up. There was one question that we couldn't get to yesterday because had, once again, a little bit of difficulty getting Facebook to show me the comments that people were adding. I mean, I had the comment page up. But it just didn't seem to update very much. I found out later that Nasha was trying like crazy. She asked her same question like 50 times, and it just wouldn't answer the question, which was sad. I mean, because I know she wanted our special guest Dan to be able to address it directly, and that didn't come off. But so sorry about that, Nasha. But I figured we could try to address it for her because her question was pretty basic. It was about visualizing, and she wanted his take on the best ways to go about visualizing. Well, we can't get that answer from Dan. I figure we can get it from the three of us because, I mean, between the three of us, somebody here must know something about visualizing, right? I would hope.
A little bit.
So, which of you guys want to give an answer? What's the best way to go about, doing visualizing?
Well,
I would go with Tom first.
Always go to the life coach.
Yeah.
I should have remembered that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go to the what?
Go to the life coach.
Oh, the life coach, yeah. Actually, yeah, I gave a whole speech on that not too long ago. And I said that the best way for me is to be in a sitting or prone position and close my eyes and let myself think of the things that I want to have happening in my life and sort of hypnotize myself into the place of being in that experience best I can. So, like I wanted to have a relationship of a certain way, so I would picture myself in a certain place with a certain woman and, walking along and holding her hand and picture feel the sand under my feet at the beach and feel the waves coming up and, myself interacting with her and us laughing together. And I do that with all kinds of situations. And I feel like that's as good as it gets, just work on that, but what I don't do enough is I don't consistently do it. I do it and then I'll let days go by before I'll say, oh, that's right. I want to do visualizing again. And I'm trying to make it a more regular practice.
That's it, isn't it? I mean, I don't care what kind of practice you're talking about. It's the regularity. Even if you're only doing it for, 10 seconds every day, just doing it every single day, establishing that habit, boy, is that important. It's more important than any given practice, I think. I mean, some people will say that meditation is the most important thing you can do. And I'm not one of those people yet. I have to admit I'm doing it more and more. I'm getting a little bit more out of it each time, but I'm not quite one of the big advocates. But even where meditation is concerned, I'm finding I get the best results just by trying to do it a little bit every day. Even if I'm not doing, 10 or 15 minutes, even if I'm doing it for 30 seconds, just, hey, at least I tried to do it today. And just that habit, getting that habit going, that's what does more than anything else. I found it true for every single process, every single practice that I've ever tried to do that turned out to be successful. The successful ones were the ones I did regularly.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and some people can't easily get up an image, and then it's okay to just feel a feeling too.
Yeah. Well,
the whole thing you want is to get to feeling something.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're good at imaging, you want to have feelings associated with your images.
Right.
So
what about you, Alex?
Can do to get to that feeling.
Well, there it is. Yeah. What do you do to get there? So Alex, I mean, what's your approach to visualizing? How do you go about doing it? You tie it into other practices?
Yes, like Tom was saying, if you're not good at visualizing, I suggest getting a picture of what you want, like a physical picture, and doing your morning mantras to that. Mm-hmm. And that's how I do it. And that seems to be working for me so far.
Good. Well, that's the basis for a vision board. I mean, a vision board is just a collection of pictures that you're looking at every day. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't just put the vision board together and throw it into the closet. That doesn't do you a whole lot of good.
It doesn't work like that.
I mean, it can help. Don't get me wrong, because you've put it out to the universe, but it's so much better if you're actually getting into a happy place about those things every day. Now, if you're staring at your vision board every day feeling, oh God, I feel so bad I don't have these things, it's probably better off to put it in the closet and leave it there. Mm-hmm. But if you can get a little excited about it every day and like, oh boy, this is good. I can just see myself in there. I can see our family in there or whatever. That's a great thing to do every day, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it builds. It builds on itself. Mm-hmm. If you do it consistently, I find that I can go really quickly into the visualization of something, and then I can start to add to it. Mm. And it's really amazing when I do it every day. I really like that.
Yeah.
It builds on itself.
It does. It's almost like the story starts to tell itself. The first day, the story is, well, I want a new house. That's the end of the story. The second day, the story is, well, I want a new house, and I realized yesterday that I want it to be all on one level. So now the story's 2 sentences or a sentence and a half long. And then the third day, well, I want a house. I want it to be all on one level, and I don't want to live in this town. I want it to be in a town 100 miles from here. Okay, well, the story just got a little bit longer. It just that's building on itself, right, Tom?
Mm-hmm. A good thing to do too is experiment with what Neville Goddard said: is just visualize one aspect of the thing you want being repeated every time you visualize. So, if you want to get a certain amount of money, you could picture yourself at the deposit, at the bank, handing them a check, for $45,000, and you're putting that in your account, and it's, you're realizing that this money has come from that, that product you sold, or that workshop you put on, or that car you sold, and all of a sudden you've got this income coming in. Mm-hmm. But picture that thing over and over again, exactly that incident happening. So some say that's the quickest way to get what you want. Others say just be free rambling with it, whatever you want to, picture the car you want, picture yourself driving it, picture yourself with your friends in the car, picture yourself, at the dealership buying the car. Mm-hmm. So I have more fun when I picture a multitude of things. When I just try to picture the same thing over and over again, and I don't know, I get a little frustrated with it after a while.
Yeah.
Dan had an interesting word he used yesterday. He likes to use the word dream in association with this stuff. So he doesn't so much visualize as he dreams. And I mean, his website is dreamwithdan.com. I mean, that shows how important the concept with him is. And he has I can't remember what the tag phrase he uses. It's like dream your life or something like that. I can't remember what it is. But the point is, dreaming is a very specific concept, isn't it? We tend to associate it with sleep, but there's also daydreams, and then there's dreams of, what are your dreams for the future, that kind of thing. And when you look at it that way, I've been doing some dreaming myself about these local workshops that I'm trying to put together. And I've been finding that what we're talking about here really does apply. Because first of all, like you said, Tom and Alex, I'm not really good at visualizing images. So that's always been kind of a weak point to me. But I can still dream. My dream don't necessarily take the form of a video. It's usually a little bit less well defined than that, but I can tell you what goes on in my dream, so to speak. So I've been doing that kind of dreaming, and I'm finding that the dream is building over time, the way you described, Tom. That, as I think about this project every day and kind of approach it from different angles and ask myself questions about it, so forth, the dream just starts to fill in. And one of the things that I did early on was, even before I started working on the workshop, was I told you about this, Alyx, I created what I call a vision video. Kind of like a vision board. I found videos that represented some of the things I wanted to attract. One of the things I wanted to attract, and I've talked about this for quite some time, is larger audience for the podcast. And so I had this little video of an audience applauding. That was my way of saying, okay, here I am visualizing what the audience looks like. Well, that little image has started to play out a little bit in my dream for how these local workshops play. And every once in a while, I actually get that little video coming, the reminder of the video coming into my mind, like, okay, this is what you're trying to attract. You're trying to draw this stuff in there. And the cool part is it's been coming to my mind unrequested. It's not like I had to go reach for it.
Nice.
I was simply in the place of dreaming about what the workshop's going to be, and then this little snippet would come to my mind, like, oh, cool. Well, that part's going to be good. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you guys, Alyx, do you get that kind of thing happening where it just kind of builds itself like Tom talks about, or do you find you have to piece everything together?
No, I don't usually have to piece everything together. It usually just comes to me, and then I build upon that. I like to get specific. So, like if I say, I want lima beans for dinner. So I'll say, I want green lima beans for dinner. Or I want green lima beans for dinner at 6:00. Like, that's how I build upon it.
Okay. And how did...
Man, I haven't had lima beans forever.
Well, I hate lima beans. I was just using it as an example.
I was going to say, that for me was the vegetable as a kid that your parents would make you eat that I would just refuse. My lips were sealed. No way I'm going to eat those lima beans.
Yeah, I don't eat lima beans, but, as an example.
Go ahead, Alyx. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No.
That was such a powerful example. Yeah.
You might want to be careful about that one, Alyx, because the more you dream about them, you may actually end up with lima beans for dinner one of these days.
Well, that'll never happen because we are not getting them at the store, so they're not coming into this house.
So you do all the shopping?
I don't, but I make requests.
Well, as long as somebody else is doing the shopping, those lima beans could still show up.
That's a possibility, but
yeah.
I highly doubt it.
Okay, I won't.
If it's not on the list, it shouldn't be in the bag.
Okay.
I think a fun exercise would be to see how much we visualize things that we don't want also, or how much are we visualizing anyway,
Yeah.
Like,
well, you might call that
notice.
fun. I call that annoying and pissing me off. But if you find that to be an enjoyable activity, fine. Okay, that's good.
Well, because it begins to show you that you do visualize. You're just doing it automatically, and you could begin to control it more. Maybe you could begin to notice. Oh, I am constantly thinking about that thing not working out. How about I think about something working out? I wonder how often we do that.
That was another thing I talked about with Dan.
I do it all the time, and it drives me crazy.
I know. Yeah, well, that's it. That's what I was telling Dan about yesterday. I remember when...
Because I feel like I can't control my thoughts. It's driving me insane.
Exactly.
Yeah. A lot of people say we can't control our thoughts. And I don't even know the full answer to that.
Yeah.
I think we can and we can't,
Right.
There's like, if I spend all my time trying to control my thoughts, I don't know if I could be a human being.
Right.
Well,
I don't know if that's what...
I think
if that's something to master completely.
I think it's what meditation's for. I think it's what mirror exercises. Exercises like that are for, so that you can quiet your mind, and that way you can be selective about your thoughts. If your mind isn't quiet, then you're right. You can't control that because your mind, your subconscious mind is just
not quiet.
It's just beating out all this stuff to you all the time. But if you can take control enough to quiet your mind, then you can be selective. So, do I do that all the time? No, but there used to be a time when I couldn't do it at all. So the way I look at it is, we can control all of our thoughts if we really want to and if we're willing to do the work over time. But if we haven't developed the skill yet, it's kind of like, being the kid who walks into the gym for the first time trying to figure out how to lift 500 pounds. It's not going to happen for a while.
Yeah.
No. Does it mean it'll never happen? No. I mean, Joel Elston, after 40 years of lifting at gyms, can now deadlift 500 pounds. But he couldn't have done it the first day. There was no way. It wasn't going to happen. In fact, he told me a story. He showed me on Facebook, too. He showed me a picture of himself at about age 12. He was this typical skinny little kid. And he showed it to his adopted son. And his adopted son didn't believe him. He didn't think it was his father. Because his father is this big, hulking guy who's just, massively muscular. How could that little skinny kid be that big, hulking guy? That's not possible, right? Well, shows what happens.
Got to start from somewhere.
Shows what happens when you do it every day. Because that's what he does.
Yep.
That's his favorite thing. That's his process for feeling good every day. Going to the gym.
Yeah.
Joel's?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's his favorite thing to do. In fact, he tells me even before he makes any kind of major decision, the first thing he does is go to the gym.
Wow.
Just to get into a good frame of mind. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which also I think is probably the other thing when you're trying to manifest something, when you're trying to visualize something, get yourself into the good frame of mind first.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise you
That
got that...
seems to be the key to everything.
Yeah. Well, because otherwise you got that stream of bad stuff coming in and you're visualizing the wrong stuff.
And it seems like life responds to the good feelings. That's what it responds to more than anything for me. Because when I'm feeling good, all kinds of things start flooding into my life. Things that I want, things that I've been thinking about that I want. They start showing up when I'm feeling good.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true.
A lot more so.
So let's see. We're not being flooded with questions from the live stream listening audience. I'd say why don't we play our round robin game of coming up with our own questions? Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to opt out of being the first person because I brought in a question from yesterday, so that's my excuse. And plus, I'm the host, so I get to go third anyway if I want to. So I'm going to follow the rule and go to the life coach first and ask Tom. Tom, you got a question for us we can address?
Okay. I thought of one. If things seem to be going downhill in your life, do you Walt and do you Alyx always believe on some level that it's going to get better or it's getting better and that it really can't totally deteriorate? Like, do you believe that somehow, even if you're getting sick, that somehow that things are going to be okay? How about
Definitely.
you, Alyx? Yeah.
Yeah. Things always work out.
Yeah. So you're going through your day most of the time feeling that no matter what comes up, it's going to work out. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just made that decision at some point that you're just going to be that way?
I just noticed it.
Mm-hmm.
That things always work out for me. So let's keep it going.
That's pretty powerful. How about you, Walt?
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't say I have that 100% track record like Alyx does. I feel that way a lot of the time. But when that really, especially when you have that really deep dive where it feels like you're falling off the cliff. Like, you know the feeling when you're getting sick and you just feel the symptoms starting to come on, right? And all of a sudden, your entire world is, I'm getting sick. In that instant, I would have to dig really deep to feel a feeling that says, oh, well, I know this is just temporary. I'm going to get out of this. During that descent, it just feels like everything's falling apart. But it doesn't last. I reach some sort of stability. I reach like a midpoint or something like that. Maybe it's just from lying down. Maybe it's from drinking something, just whatever. Something to just kind of stabilize for a moment. And at that moment, it's like, well, I know I'll get over this. That's not a big deal. But during the fall, during the part where you're actually in descent, that's the time where it just feels like everything's falling apart. So I do have doubts at that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you feel like at that time that you could get into a place, and what would happen? You would never get out of it. It would get worse, or you just don't even think that far. You just feel bad. Is that what it is, or? Yeah,
it doesn't. The thought process doesn't go that far, but I could kind of equate it to something. I can't remember who I was talking with. I think it may have been Joel yesterday morning, but the cliche came up about being afraid of success. There are a lot of life coaches, a lot of therapists who talk about clients who are afraid of success. And I mentioned, and I think it was to Joel, I mentioned, I've never really bought into that idea. I understand what they're saying, but I don't think they're afraid of success. What I think is they're afraid of failing in the face of success. In other words, even when success is presented to them, they're going to find a way to fail. I think that's what they're really afraid of. And that's kind of the equivalent of what we're talking about here. That, when you're falling into some sort of an abyss, so to speak, you're doing that in the context of, for the most part, lately you've been having a lot of good things going on. And then all of a sudden you just took this turn for the worse. So the context is everything's good, but you're falling. You're failing in the face of success. Fortunately, it doesn't last.
Yeah. I have this thing where I'm like Alyx, I just always feel that no matter what it is, somehow it's just going to be a temporary thing and it's going to turn around. And it's, I guess it's one thing that keeps me going. But I was asking myself, is there part of me that really believes that things could get into a spiral or a place of feeling down that would be hard to get out of?
Oh yeah.
That would be,
it's called depression.
Be there, could be stuck. Yeah. Be stuck in that place for a long time. Yeah.
And I've been there. I know what that feels like. I think you have too.
Yeah, I've been there too.
I have too.
Yeah. I think both have. Yeah. And that's a miserable place because now it feels like the spiral is never ending.
But you have to remember to say to yourself, this too shall pass.
Right. Which is often hard to do.
Yeah. But that's one of my things. Like, I'll say it out loud as soon as if I'm in the midst of whatever is bringing me down, you just say it out loud. Just, this too shall pass. Too shall pass.
Yeah, I think
and it always does.
Yeah. I think I have a lot of built-in things that I must automatically do to try to always convince myself that things aren't as bad as they might seem. So I don't, I guess once I hear the thoughts that are saying how bad it is, that's my red flag to check in with myself and ask myself, really? You really want to listen to that? Do you really believe that? It's like, do you really want to go down that path? Were you going to buy into it? Especially law of attractions helped me a lot with that because it focuses so much on not doing that. Like you listen to Abraham when they're constantly telling you a way to think about whatever's happening so that you're always building up a better feeling story. So you're always saying, well, even though, right now it's not working out, it was working out before. And since it was working out before, it could work out again. And, even though I'm sick, I know that most of the time I'm not sick and it's only one part of my body that's sick. And so, look at how well my foot is, even though my throat's sore. My feet are doing fine. Things like that. You convince yourself that it's really not as bad as you think it is.
It's a good, it's a good technique because even the sickest individual, somebody who's suffering from some dread disease and their prognosis is to be dead in a month, even that person, 85 to 90% of their body is working just fine.
Right.
Which is really hard to remember, but it's true. And so it does give us something else to focus on if we can marshal our resources and do it. I mean, I'm not saying that's necessarily easy to do because it's not. I've struggled with it. I imagine each of you have too, in one way or another. Not necessarily a dread disease, but some situation, some health-related situation where it just doesn't feel good, and you can't imagine how it's going to get better, and you're struck with the pain or the suffering or the feeling of sickness or whatever, and you just can't seem to climb out of it. But if you put your mind to it for at least split seconds at a time, you can. And that's the reminder that we really do have that control. It's just we're trying to learn it. We're trying to learn to apply it regularly, but we do have that control, and that's encouraging to me. You know what the other thing that's encouraging to me is when Abraham explained, I don't remember when it was, within the last few years, they had one of their workshops. They explained that we all choose when we're going to die. It doesn't just happen to us; we make the decision. And I doubted that at first, but as I thought about it, I realized it was probably true. And as I realized that it was probably true, it also made me realize, well, as long as that's the case, then I really don't have to worry or fear dying because I'm the one who's going to decide. Right? I mean, if it's not imposed upon me, if I'm the one who's deciding, then there's nothing to fear there anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, there's a bigger way of looking at all that too that I've been reading a lot of Seth lately, and they're constantly talking about how we actually are creating everything. That we're each infinite beings that are creating everything in our experience.
Right.
And that there is no such thing as linear time. The only thing that exists is one, eternal moment. And that there's the illusion that there's been a past and a present and a future, but there really is only this moment. So there is no such thing as anything else other than that. Well, if we're just creating within an eternal moment, logically, intellectually, there could be a lot of peace that could come from realizing that, that you don't really ever die, and you're never really born, but you do go through an experience of, you could call death and rebirth, and all these things happen, but they're all being created by the creators. We're the creators, and I mean, I think the reason I read a lot of that Seth stuff because it's so fascinating to think about what we really are.
Yeah. I like that.
Because to me it could take away a lot of concern about how we play this game if we aren't so believing that it's this really intense, serious thing that we are stuck in and that we're just sort of the victims of life,
Absolutely. I agree with that. That victim of life mentality, I actually think that's tied to the mentality of us not being the creators. The idea that there's this other creator, there's this God force, and this God is the one who created all of us, and we have to follow God's plan, and God, we exist to do God's will, and all this kind of stuff. All of that just takes power away from us as creators. That's really what the point of that is to take the power away from us.
Yeah, and the whole law of attraction thing, studying it and reading about it and talking about it is in a way all revolving around that one subject. Are we creating this reality moment by moment?
Right.
And what are the implications of that?
Yeah.
If it's really only just one moment, then we're just playing here. It's like this is our playground. This is our, and we're just, it's like weird when you just kind of step back even a little bit and start thinking about the implications of what we're actually doing. And it takes you out of the way you grew up thinking that everything's linear and, your mother and your father and your teachers and everything that happened to you and is continuing to happen is all some kind of a pre-written play that has its rules that you have to live by. Instead of the fact that, no, you're creating the whole thing and your options are incredible, huge smorgasbord of options of what you could do with your consciousness. And it's just you coming to the realization that you have this huge amount of possibilities at your fingertips.
True. It's good stuff.
But it's challenging, though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Well, it's a good kind of challenge, though. I like that kind of a challenge because that's a challenge that can only have positive results, no matter how you look at that one. You may go through some negative to get there, but you're going to end up in a positive place when you're done with that. So I like that kind. So, Alyx, it's your turn. You got a question for us to address? Something that'll, shake our boots or even just get us to think a little bit?
I do. Okay, so this question was brought to me, and I didn't know how to answer it. From the law of attraction point of view, what do you say to a person who, let's say, has been poor their entire life and gone through struggle and grief and everything, and people just say, everything happens for a reason?
It's a good question.
And so what do you say to that person?
Yeah.
You're saying who's gone through a tremendous amount of difficulty, and somebody's saying to them, everything happens for a reason? And so what's your question? Is that a good thing to say to that person, or how do you elaborate on that so that they understand that they're creating their own reality?
Yes.
Even though it's been difficult?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's lots of things that could be said. The main thing I would say is, do you think that that there's a divine purpose to your life? Do you think that there's something that you came here of your own volition at all? You have to start asking that person. Like, do you think that you're just the victim of everything, of circumstance, and the fact that you've lived in poverty and you've suffered as much as you have is all a result of others have done that to you? Mm-hmm. And that's where the discussion would begin. Yeah. Because it's got to be like beginning to open up that possibility that they might have a hand in their own, what's happening to them.
Yes.
And that they are somehow an infinite being who is making choices to be here in a certain way, and maybe through lifetimes. Because if they don't see it as they have a responsibility or an accountability for anything that's happening to them, then it'd be hard not to just be in the victim place. Just feel like, no, I'm screwed. This is all being done to me. This is all, evil happening to me, or meanness, or unkindness, or, God is unkind and people are unkind. And, that's why I've ended up in such a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, personally,
but it's a tough one, right?
Personally, I don't use the phrase. Yeah. I don't believe in using the phrase "things happen for a reason." I don't find that to be a useful phrase. And the reason I don't find that to be useful is what useful information does it convey?
Nothing.
I mean, I think virtually everybody on the planet already knows something about logic. A leads to B. So I don't think I have to explain that part to them, Mm-hmm. So saying everything happens for a reason, well, I already knew that. Tell me something I don't know. That's what they're really saying. Tell me something I don't know.
Yeah.
And like Tom points out, ultimately it comes down to how receptive are they to the role they're playing in their own creation. Even if they don't understand how creation works. Where's the receptivity? Is there receptivity? And that's why I don't think there's a single answer that applies to all. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all. I think it's dependent on where that person's at. If the person, like, I don't remember who I was talking with. I think you may have been part of this conversation, but there was somebody I saw online, on Facebook, who'd gotten into one of the groups, and he was just going on and on about how he had been physically abused as a child by his father, and apparently pretty brutally. And he was angry as hell. Nothing that anybody could tell him about law of attraction would even begin to penetrate. He says, "Oh yeah, well, good luck with that." That was his standard answer, It became pretty apparent he really was not in a place where he wanted any kind of a change. He wanted to vent. He just wanted to spew anger as much as possible. So telling somebody like that, well, everything happens for a reason. First of all, that's not going to help anyway because the phrase doesn't help. But second of all, he's not in a place to hear anything yet. You gotta be receptive on some level. If you can't receive on any level, no one can help you. You're still going through that negative journey until you're done with it. So that's really the first thing. Where's their level of receptivity? Now, most people who are reacting to the question you raised, Alyx, have, just because they're raising that question, they're indicating some level, most often, some level of receptivity somewhere. And so now the task becomes trying to identify where that is. One of the clues I like to look for is someone who tells me the sob story about, and I don't mean that in a degrading way. I just mean it's kind of a descriptive way of saying, here's this poor person. They've had this miserable life. They've never had anything. They've got this ongoing experience of being in poverty. Every time that any job comes along, they lose the job. Anytime that they actually had some money, but it was stolen. And when they start telling a sob story like that, where everything's going wrong, my initial reaction is to ask them, is there anything going right? Because it just kind of stops you in your tracks and makes you think about it in a different way. And it's a different way. I know it's a different way because everything that's been coming out of your mouth is all the things that are going wrong. Well, if I'm now asking you to look at something that's not going wrong, I've just derailed the train.
Right.
Right? And it's interesting the kinds of reactions you get on that. Most often the reaction is something along the line of, I hadn't thought of that. You know?
Yeah.
But it's also a good way to kind of filter out the guys who are spewing the anger. You know? Because if all you get back is an angry answer, then you know, oh, well, okay, now he's not in a place to receive anything. So he's got a ways to go before he'll be receptive. But once he does get to the receptive point, he finds some kind of way of saying, I hadn't thought of that, or here's what I've thought of, or, well, yes, this one thing went right, and here's another 100 things that went wrong, or, you know, some kind of an answer. But the answer gives us the clues about what it takes to help that person get to the answer they're looking for. So
I think let
me just conclude with one thought, Tom. So when somebody is asking the question, you know, what do you say to somebody who is being constantly told, well, no, things all happen for a reason? There are two parties at play there. One is the focus, the person we're talking about who's in that poverty situation. The second party is the person who's asking the question about that first party, who's saying, what do you say to somebody like that?
Yeah.
And that person's on a completely different perspective, a completely different plane. They're not experiencing the poverty themselves. They may be experiencing it kind of vicariously because they're sympathetic to what this person's going through. But they're seeing it from a different perspective. And I'm reminded of something that Shelley mentioned to me on a recent show on a Monday night. She told me how when she grew up, she lived basically in poverty. She didn't see it that way. But anybody looking in would have said, you know, her clothes are poorly laundered, she's living in neglect, there's not enough food, there's not enough love around, all this kind of stuff. But that's not the way she's experienced. To her, life was like this is a smorgasbord of activities and things and interesting things to look at and understand and so forth. She didn't understand us being in poverty at all. So the perspective is huge. You know, for the person who's asking the question, I could be asking, how do you know that they feel like they're stuck in poverty? How do you know that's not just your perspective imposed upon them?
Yeah.
So that's all I was going to say. Sorry, Tom. Go ahead with what you were going to say.
No, that's all right. I'm glad you explained all that. I was just going to say that it's interesting that both your answer and my answer went to that it's a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I immediately saw it as, well, who's the person I'm talking to that I'm telling that things always are happening for a reason, you know, because that's one statement, but then you have to engage with that person and what's going on in their life and who are they and how are they seeing reality and how do they see themselves and what do they think their possibilities are, what is working, what isn't working. I mean, all those things, that's why coaching or psychotherapy, you know, is so interesting because every single person needs to be addressed where they're at with their personal, you know, problem, their personal dilemma. And then you can start to unravel the threads of how they're seeing their life. And instead of just making some blanket statement that's supposed to make them feel better or, you know, to blame them, you know, well, look, everything's happening for a reason. You must be creating it. So take responsibility for it. I mean, that kind of superficial way of dealing with somebody is really maddening and would drive, you know, you can't treat somebody that way, right?
Yeah.
What's your answer to it, Alyx?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I totally agree with the fact that everything happens for a reason is a stupid thing to say. That's like along the lines of, God works in mysterious ways when someone has cancer. Like, come on now.
That's the best you could do?
Yeah, that's just like, that you have nothing else to say, don't say anything.
Yeah,
okay?
right.
Then, so, but I definitely agree that we have to delve deeper and see where the poverty came from, who the person is, what their situation is, how they got there to where they are today. You know, and ask those questions and then start, you know, figuring things out from there. So it's like you guys said, it's a case-by-case situation.
Yeah.
Helping a person see how they can help themselves.
You
know, how they can take personal responsibility without having to be blamed, without having to be shamed, without having to feel guilty for the way they've lived their life. I mean, that's the whole thing with people hate law of attraction because, you know, you say to somebody who's got cancer, you know, well, you created your own reality, so how did you do it? How did you give yourself cancer? You know, Well, it's like,
Yeah.
fuck you. I mean, excuse me. It's like, there's no way that, you want somebody to say that to you when you've got cancer or anything. You don't want somebody just always putting it back in your face, like, how did you screw up? That's like
Right.
very parental, old school, but instead it's got to be sort of the opposite of that. There's got to be a way to talk to the person that they slowly begin to understand that, well, I guess I am thinking and saying and doing things that are along these lines that I could end up with cancer. I could end up with, having gotten in that accident kind of makes sense now that I see how angry I was and I wasn't admitting how angry I was and I attracted that into my life somehow. But,
And since the way you framed the question, Alyx, originally was somebody asking you, what do you say to somebody who's in poverty? I keep going back to, isn't that the person we should be addressing, not the person who's in poverty? Shouldn't we actually be addressing the need of the person who's raising the question?
Yes.
And
definitely.
That's where I go back to what Dan was saying yesterday afternoon. He was talking about how, well, whoever's asking that question, I'm going to translate over to our current question. Whoever's asking that question they're in a certain vibration. Their perspective is one of lack. And their perspective of lack is one that they projected on someone else because they see certain characteristics and they say, there's lack going on there. And I'm going to feel that lack right now. So my question is, well, why did you decide to focus on lack? Is that, it must be giving you something. You chose to do it. You thought in some way it would make you feel better or more educated or superior to others or I don't know, something. But it made you feel like, you had some benefit. What was the benefit for you?
Right.
I'm not denigrating it. I'm just simply saying, why did you choose to go down that road? It's not a good feeling one. We all know that's not a good feeling one. Why did you choose it?
Right.
There had to be something.
Right, that's true.
And now all of a sudden the question has completely turned around. It no longer is about that poor person. Now it's about the person who's raising the question. And why did they even choose to focus on that? I saw an article that got passed around on Facebook. Louise showed it to me. It was one of these little meme article thingies that gets passed around about how horrible it is that I think it's Amazon. One of the major companies. I can't remember which one. Amazon, I believe, is the one, and they are paying people below minimum wage and taking advantage of them. And I did a little quick research and found out that it wasn't actually a current article at all. It was from about 4 years ago. So it wasn't even current. And it took me a while to dive into it because there's so much spin attached to them that you have to get the spin out of the way and find out what the root of the thing is. But there actually was a root to it.
Yeah.
The root to it was, and I didn't read it in detail, but apparently under the minimum wage laws as they were originally put together many years ago, there were some exceptions built in, and one of the exceptions was built in for people with disabilities. And under that particular structure, under certain circumstances, for certain kinds of people with disabilities, you don't have to pay them minimum wage.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know exactly what the reasoning is behind that. I mean, like I said, I didn't delve into it, but I kind of got the sense that the idea was these were people who society just was never able to find work for because their disabilities were so severe. But I said, okay, well, I can kind of understand that. I don't necessarily approve of it, but I can kind of understand where that came from. Well, this article was all about vilifying, I'm going to say it was Amazon. I can't remember who it was, but vilifying Amazon for employing these workers. And then I go back to what the original thought process is. Well, the original thought process is these are people who are not otherwise employable. So are they really taking advantage of them? I mean, if you go to talk to those workers themselves, do they want to quit their jobs because they're not being paid well enough? Or are they loving what they're doing? Perhaps that's a possibility. I'm not saying that they're not being paid, that they're being paid enough. I'm just simply saying what's really going on here. And then I looked at the article, the original article that was published 4 years ago, and what they were saying. And in the article, they were saying these disabled workers could be working for anybody. I said, well, wait a minute. Hold the phone here. That's not what that law was talking about. The law was talking about people who couldn't get a job anywhere else because their disabilities were so severe. You can't have it both ways. These are either people who can work anywhere or they just can't get a job. Which one is it? You know?
Right.
So now we're back on the frame. We're no longer really talking about the disabled person anymore. We're talking about the frame of mind of the person who wrote the article.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the frame of mind of the person who wrote the article in the first place before he or she even wrote it? And what was the frame of mind of the person who was sharing it on Facebook? What were they focused on? Why were they so focused on this really, really negative vibration that it looks like they kind of created out of thin air in some ways? In other ways, there was some foundation to it, but they kind of turned it into their own little game, and the little game actually didn't add up too well. So what was going on that would make them want to do that?
Right.
And when you look at it that way, now all of a sudden it becomes an entirely different question.
Mm-hmm.
How many people focus on all of the terrible things that people are being taken advantage of as a regular way of thinking? What is that doing to them? How is it impacting their interactions with others? How is it impacting their happiness in their own lives? If you look at lack long enough, what's it doing to you?
Yeah.
And that's true in any arena.
Absolutely. Any arena. Yeah. But boy, it's easy to do.
The downside.
Yeah. So, taking my own advice to heart, I'm going to switch the topic because this one's getting really down. I don't want to keep going down that road anymore. So I'm going to change the topic around to something much more cheery. What's the thing you're going to do this weekend that's going to lift you up the most?
I don't know. Mike and I are celebrating our 2-month anniversary.
Hey, congratulations.
Today.
Fabulous.
So we will see where the weekend takes us.
You're not even worried about what the most fun thing is. You're going to be together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All I require on these little monthly anniversaries is attendance. That's all I require.
Unfortunately, taking attendance doesn't take very long. That's great. See, that's going into the weekend with an attitude that it's not like you've set the bar real high, but you set it, and as long as you reach that setting, you're good. So the happiness is going to start right from the moment you guys get together, and it's going to be great throughout the entire weekend. That's fabulous.
Exactly.
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tom, what are you doing this weekend?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I want to take it moment by moment. And so I'm going to start my weekend right after this podcast, or right during this podcast, as to how can I have an attitude that is really open-ended, that leaves me in a sense that I am going to allow in as much ease, fun, relaxation, and inspiration as I can in anything that comes up. So if I'm deciding what to eat, what to drink, what to do next, I want to look for what feels good. Now, I will admit, last weekend I went and played music with my brother. He plays keyboard and I play the guitar. And oh my God, I got into a place that was so high. I haven't been in a place that high in ages.
Ooh.
So I'd like to do that again.
Yeah.
Because
I was just going to suggest that music is the best way for you to achieve what you're trying to achieve this weekend.
Well, it got me into a place where I just realized that, oh my God, if I was in this place more, it just makes life so beautiful when there's that sense of full-on accomplishment of playing a song your own way, singing it your own way, and the other person totally loves it, and the two of you get into a groove together. I mean, that is really nice.
That is great.
Yeah.
One thing to play by myself, but to play with somebody else where we're both. He cried during one of the songs because he doesn't get to play music that much, and at the end of it, tears coming down, and I said, "What's going on?" He said, "That was just so beautiful." And I said, "Wow, that's really amazing that you cried." And I was like, "That's so cool." What a wussy. No,
That's
beautiful.
That's tapping into his
It's great.
emotions. Yeah.
No, it's a good thing. Beautiful thing.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. So music.
Wow, I'm jealous. I mean, you guys have these great weekends planned. I don't even know what we're planning. I haven't given
Come
any
on,
thought at all.
Walt. Oh, Walt. You'll tell us you're going to do something good.
Well, I know what I'm working on this weekend. I do have a little work to do on Saturday. Louise and I have been talking about had been talking about what to do on Sunday. Sunday we had one plan in mind, but that plan kind of fell through. So we're kind of not really sure what we're going to do. What I can tell you is this: we're not going to be at home. We're going to be out doing something. I just don't know what the something is. And so I guess since there's a certain degree of anticipation there, that's going to be the high point. Like, I wonder what we're going to be doing. I don't know. But I know whatever it is, it's going to be good because we'll be out of the house. We'll be away from all the worries and cares and so forth. We'll just be, being ourselves and having a good time.
Nice.
That's all you can do, right?
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah. And, well, actually, there's plenty to celebrate, too, because Louise has had all those medical issues over the last few months. And thank you to everybody who sent your good wishes. She is continuing to get better and better every day. She's much more like her old self.
Right.
Right. I mean, I don't even notice the major symptoms anymore. They're pretty much gone. At this point, it's just, getting strength back and getting endurance back and all that kind of thing. And, and getting your mindset back, too, because despite the fact that our positive mindsets got us into the healing mode and helped her move out of where she was at in a big way, even now, there are still times when both of us deal with the downward spiral thoughts. I've seen it in her quite a bit lately. But now she can focus on just that, on climbing out of that. She doesn't have to deal with the physical side, too. So even there's a positive to it. And she's doing it. We talk about stuff every day, and it becomes very evident that she's still dealing with stuff. There was one particular thing we were dealing with yesterday. But, overall it's good. So... It's an ever-increasing spiral in that sense, and that's good. That's the last question I wanted to raise before we're done here. We got about 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes left, something like that. Do you find that we don't live just in positive or negative spirals, that sometimes there can be spirals within spirals? Because I've been noticing that.
Oh, yeah.
You see that a lot?
Yeah, you definitely, one spiral can lead to another spiral, so you're in a spaghetti sandwich.
A spaghetti sandwich. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading this thing from Seth yesterday where they were saying one of the biggest sort of like mistakes we make as humans is we think that we're in a limited reality. And so we take a thought to a certain point and we think, well, that's as far as that could go. But they said, it says really there is so much more if you allow it to open up. You create another spiral within your spiral, and a possibility. You start to think of, well, what are some other possibilities that could be happening? Like, that's why I say if I want to have the best weekend possible, I really don't want to limit it to things that could happen. I want it to be controlled by things that I create with my own thinking. Like that I bring myself up simply by adding a spiral within a spiral within a spiral of possibility. And then I watch how life feeds me better and better situations because I'm changing the way I'm thinking about things.
I feel like the word spiral has a negative connotation to it because of the way it goes down. So you automatically assume you're spiraling down. So, I don't know. I've never heard spiraling used in a positive way.
Oh, I do.
So this is
spiraling up?
Yeah.
Yeah, never heard it.
Yeah. I don't necessarily tend to think of it as an actual spiral. I tend to think of it more like a cascade. But when you get into that positive place, it's just like one good thing seems to happen after another. And there's sort of a spiral aspect of that, I mean, you're right. We don't tend to use the word spiral very commonly that way, but I feel it has the same kind of pull as that negative spiral. It's just in a more positive direction.
You just gotta flip it over.
Yeah.
That's all.
I've definitely experienced it, where you start thinking and allowing things to be good, and you just open the doors wide to that possibility, and you just keep noticing the next best thing, the next best thing, the next best thing. It can feel like you're just being handed gift after gift after gift when you get in that place. And it's a really incredible. And I can't say I have that all the time. I mean, that's something that I have to remind myself. Oh, that is possible.
Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself?
Then make it a practice.
Do you ever find yourselves in a positive stream or positive spiral and not realize up until that point that you were in a positive stream or positive spiral? And you say, oh, wait a minute, I'm in a positive place.
I've definitely been driving along or something in the car and all of a sudden realize how happy I am. And I'm going, oh, how did I this feels so good. And then I just try to run with it, like you just bask in that feeling of how good it feels just to feel good,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I also find that lately this really cool thing that I'm doing, which is if I find myself making myself unhappy or feeling bad for any reason, I ask myself, is this really necessary right now? Like, is this, or I say, I am not allowing anything that puts me down at all. So there's no thought that it's acceptable to me that is making me wrong for anything. Therefore, no matter what I'm doing, if I notice that something in me is saying, I screwed up because of that, or I'm not good enough about that, or I wish I had that more together, it's like I refuse to make myself wrong. Like in the sense of blame, shame, guilt,
Right.
the way you would get from somebody judging you. Mm-hmm. And it's a good exercise to practice for me. It's just to always say, hey, you're off the hook, Tom. What are you feeling bad about? You don't have to be in that place.
One of the stories.
That's why I always say, why do you care?
Why do you care?
Why do you care?
Way of doing the same thing.
One of the stories I like to tell is how when I was practicing doing one of the things that Sean Aker teaches, which is the same thing that they use in corporate settings where they institute these policies of if you come within 10 feet of somebody, you're supposed to, smile at them or wave at them or whatever. If you come within 5 feet, you're supposed to greet them by name, that kind of thing. Well, he recommends the same thing, just sort of not on a corporate level, but on a personal level. When you're going through your day, if you're out, exercising or, walking or just getting lunch or whatever, follow the same rule and greet people and so forth. And I decided to try that one in part because I've always been something of an introvert. And when you're an introvert, that's about the last thing you really want to do is just say hello to anybody. So I figured, it's a good way to stretch myself a little bit. So I made it a practice for probably about 3 or 4 months there at one point to do that. And after I'd done it for 3 or 4 months, I was out walking one day. I did it most often when I did my daily walks. I was out walking one day, and I wasn't really in the mood for doing it. But, I was kind of greeting people here or there, but I wasn't really going on my way to smile at them or whatever like that. And after being out for about 10 or 15 minutes, there were quite a few people out on the path that day. And after 10 or 15 minutes, I realized I was getting a lot of smiles. A lot more than I normally did. And I didn't understand why, because I wasn't really trying to put anything out there. Mm-hmm. So I actually got out my phone and turned it into selfie mode and looked, and I had this big, silly grin on my face. And I said, where'd that come from? Well, it came from the last 3 or 4 months greeting people all the time. So I'd actually gotten to the point where I was in a happy place without realizing it and letting the world know about it, and everybody was smiling back at me. Cool. This is good stuff. Here I am smiling and happy, and I didn't even know it. I mean, I want to know that I'm happy. Don't get me wrong, but whoa, I could actually get happy without realizing it. Whoa.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. So anyway, well, we've gone through the hour here. I have to kind of wrap this up because we're in danger of going over. But this has been good, really good. I hope you guys actually have those weekends that you were talking about. You're hoping you're going to have. It sounds like you're going to. It sounds like you're both already on the path anyway. So enjoy yourselves. Have a great time. I hope you have a great anniversary with Mike, Alyx, and Tom. I hope you get the opportunity to play that music or whatever it is you decide you're going to do.
Yeah, and I hope you have a beautiful time getting out and about and doing fun things.
Thank you. All right.
Right.
Yep. So thank you all. Thanks to our live stream listeners. Thanks to our regular podcast listenership as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.